Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Iowa State Cyclones Live here on the Voice of College Football Network. I'm your host, Levi Stevenson, managing editor over at Wide Right and Natty Light. And back here once again, talk about some Iowa State football after the bye week. After coming off the first win in over a month. And, it feels a lot better to be going into these bye weeks off of wins versus off of losses. That is not to say that Iowa State is not still banged up all to hell. That doesn't mean that we're just in a, we're kind of in a spot where we're playing out games, see what this team can do, see what the young guys look like, and see what kind of bowl game we end up in. But it is both a low pressure spot and a high pressure spot for Iowa State as they head into senior day. It is high pressure in that these last two games are very, very winnable. In Kansas at home and then on the road at Oklahoma State. Now, Oklahoma State has been playing marginally better as of late, but they're still not a good football team. But they should be able to go into these couple of games to finish out the season. And even given the injuries, they should be favorites for both of these. I don't know if the Oklahoma State lines come out. I haven't really even looked at to see what the Iowa State what the line is for this weekend. I guess I could look. Do I say a -5 for Iowa State? -4.5. Yeah. So I would say it's like a 4.5 point favorite, which is probably about right. Then they'll probably be that or better against Oklahoma State, assuming they beat Kansas. But it's a high pressure situation in that you lost 4 in a row. You got a really, really nice win on the road at TCU. Even if TCU isn't necessarily like the world beater team like we thought they had a potential to be, they're still a good football team, even though they didn't look like it last weekend. They're still a good football team with good players. And I think, I think that one will still, stick out as a really, really nice win at the time. I mean, that was a game we identified on the schedule at the beginning of the season as, one of the toughest games on the schedule for Iowa State. Like says, to say we were banged up reminds me of Monty Python. This is just a flesh wound. That is exactly right. Iowa State is just the Black Knight. That's all it is. And we'll see eventually we'll call it a draw. But you need to finish strong here. Get into bowl season. Winning these last few. Finish strong. Get into bowl practice on an upswing, or as close to an upswing as you can, given all the injuries and all that. But it's also a low pressure situation. Iowa State is not fighting for a Big 12 title game spot. I guess I would assume they're mathematically out of it at this point, but they're not fighting for a Big 12 title game spot. They're not really they're not fighting for bowl contention anymore. They're in a bowl. It's kind of just seeing where they're going to end up for the most part. So it's very low stakes in that the outside circumstances of what happens as far as with what happens this season doesn't really change. All these next two games really will only affect your bowl game, and that's pretty much it. So from that perspective, they really have not a lot to lose. But what they do have to lose is, confidence and some momentum heading into the bowl practices and then into the offseason. Because right now you are officially in the team will never tell you this. The coaches will never tell you this, and they shouldn't. They should never publicly say this. But right now you are in playing for 2026 mode. And that you're getting young guys ready. Josh Patterson's played really well the last couple games. But he's on his third. He's already played 3 redshirt games. He's got 1 more redshirt game left. If you think that he is, critical to you winning a football game, I think you play him against Kansas and you try to win that one, and then you don't play him on the road at Oklahoma State. To me, like sacrificing Josh Patterson's red shirt to win one of these, I don't think burning Josh Patterson's red shirt is going to be the turning point whether or not they win at Oklahoma State. If I were the staff, I would not play him at Oklahoma State unless you were just truly beyond desperate, which I mean, like, they kind of are, but I don't think you like if you part of it will depend on if Jameson Patton is healthy, which he's not this weekend. Um, Maybe he's ready to go for Oklahoma State, but they might just shut him down. But if you have to go Trey Bell, Trey Bell or David Coffey or Quentin Taylor on the other side, and then you've got Marcus Neal, Carson Van Dinter, and Drew Surges, like that's probably a good enough back five to beat Oklahoma State. They're just not very good. That's a good enough five to beat Oklahoma State, and along with a couple other freshmen that maybe not have maybe haven't played as much recently. So I don't think you need to burn Josh Patterson's red shirt going into that, but you can play him against Kansas, manage that. But there's a few other guys too. Like I guess Carson Van Dinter is Carson Van Dinter a true freshman or is he a redshirt freshman? This is an excellent question. I just thought of, and I'm slightly ashamed that I don't know this. I feel like I should know this. I consider myself a little bit of an Iowa State nerd, like most of us here. But I am struggling right now to remember if Carson Van Dinter is a true freshman or a redshirt freshman. Carson Van Dinter is a redshirt freshman, so you're not worried about burning redshirt games with him. So you're good there. I would just run that whole group out there. There's nobody left in that group that you're trying to preserve games for. But there's a few other guys. Cam Smith can play a little bit. He hasn't been great, but Cam Smith is again probably good enough to beat Oklahoma State. I would burn a QB red shirt. No, I believe Alex Mansky has only played in 3 games. Let me just check. But I believe he's only been in 3 games. Alex Mansky has appeared, South Dakota, Cincinnati, and TCU. So he's only played in 3 games. So Mansky's still got a game left. I don't know if you really are worrying too much about getting Alex Mansky in. I think right now you'd rather try to get Rocco back up and going. Like right now you're back in the spot where you need to get Rocco going again. So at this point you're really hoping to be able to treat these couple games. I mean, they're not G5 cupcake teams. Kansas is a solid football team. I mean, they're not great, but they're better than a G5, obviously. Oklahoma State, I'm not sure that they're better than a G5, but I don't think there's a good reason for Iowa State to be playing Alex Mansky. And I mean, I guess if you get to Oklahoma State and they are just ripping it, they're up 40 points or something like that in the third quarter, maybe throw Mansky in there. You can use the last redshirt game, throw him in there for the fourth quarter and let him sling some balls. But for the most part, I'm not really concerned about making sure you use Mansky's fourth redshirt game. The bowl game technically doesn't count towards redshirt, but I mean, again, you need to get Rocco going. Getting Rocco back in the saddle and getting him back up to speed is priority number 1 for the quarterback position. So I'm not too super worried about getting Mansky in there. Mobley's obviously not on a red shirt anymore, but I also don't know if they like. I don't know what the. Yeah, Mansky and Mobley playing both. Yeah, both playing versus TCU was a little bit odd. I thought it was we're at the point of the season again where you're not really worried about making sure Mansky gets all 4 of his games, but not too many games type of thing. But it was a little weird to see them both. I thought they could have used one or the other. But they've done this before too in the past where they just they'll bring a guy in. They'll bring a quarterback in. They'll run 2 running plays, and that's just what they That's just what they do basically. Ballard Sports Media, what's going on? I mean, they did it with Brock Purdy. I mean, in the Ohio game of 2018, they brought in Brock. He ran 1 play for -1 QB keeper for -1 yards, And then they, a few games later, they brought him in versus Oklahoma State, and then the rest is history. They did it. I believe they did it with a little bit with Rocco too. Now Rocco more so got his first playing time on the road in that blowout loss at TCU in 2022. That was his first real playing time. But I believe before that he had gotten a couple QB keepers. So like, for better or worse, this like use redshirt games to give a guy one carry on a keeper is not like an unusual thing for Iowa State. For some reason, that's just something that they do. But for me, I don't really care too much about the quarterback red shirts or anything like that. I just want to get Rocco back up and going, because Rocco will still be your quarterback in 2026. So you want to make sure that he's on a good footing going into the offseason as well. That way, when he's done after next year, then you can bring in Mansky, Moberly, or maybe if you're lucky enough to land Israel Abrams, in this recruiting class, maybe he's you're looking at him potentially as a guy, whatever that all looks like. Or, I mean, honestly, he'd be a true freshman, which I don't think you would love that necessarily. But the other guy they got in the recruiting class too this year, the Oklahoma State flip, is kind of an interesting talent too. I don't know if they think that he's got a real shot at it, or if just, Mansky's the guy or Moberly's the guy or whatever. But that's just kind of what that situation is. But really, like I said, the last couple of games here, you're playing to set yourself up for the offseason, set yourself up for 2026. That's really what you're doing here. You're trying to do it in a way that allows you to win these couple football games and finish the season strong, because finishing the season strong, it's a symbiotic set of goals that you can play for 2026 and play for this season at the same time, and saying, okay, we need to get our young guys there, but we're going to do it in a way that makes sense where we can win these couple games and win a bowl game type of thing, and still miraculously finish with 9 wins somehow. So that's how they can approach it this week. You're coming off a bye week, which is good against a team like Kansas that, we saw it last year. They preyed on the young defense, and all their misdirection and everything really, really gave a lot of the young guys that were playing because of injury, gave them tons and tons and tons of fits. Fred says you're wrong. We're playing to stay away from. That's exactly right. I've been on this for like a month now. Is that they need to thread the needle here. They either need to lose these last two to end up below the Liberty Bowl, or they need to win the last two to get above the Liberty Bowl. But if you finish 7-5, you are heading face first straight to Memphis, and nobody wants that. Maybe a couple people do, but nobody wants to go to the Liberty Bowl again, especially because I don't know if you guys saw it this week, but a whole bunch of bowl prediction services currently have their bowl predictions as Iowa State versus Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. Let me tell you how little I want that shit to happen. Let me see if I can find this. Let me see if I can find an article. Just like any one of these is crazy. They like all say this. All right, I'll pull this up here. Yeah. Okay, so let's go down bowl season. Okay, this is not helpful. All right. Okay, right there, two of them. Great. Both have Iowa State versus Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. That's fucked. Yeah, okay, so technically Iowa State is mathematically out now. So ESPN's got us versus Memphis in the Liberty Bowl. Let's see where USA Today has us. Go to hell. Oh, is this dumb page? Oh, you sons of bitches. All right, what do we got here? We've got Iowa versus Texas in the ReliaQuest Bowl. That's kind of funny. There's Iowa State. Interesting. Iowa State versus Cal in the Texas Bowl. I don't know if you can think of two like different fan bases, like two more like diametrically opposed fan bases than Iowa State and Cal. You get Cal Berkeley, Cal Berkeley, and Iowa State, the most blue collar farm kid fan base you can think of, all in the same spot. That'd be kind of wacky. In the Texas Bowl in Houston. Let's see here. Here's Bleacher Report. Let's see where Bleacher Report's got us. You guys are gonna do this to me. Oh, of course, those are Bleacher Reports. They're gonna do it in 100 pages, whatever. Anyways, the point is, currently Iowa State is on so Liberty Bowl. I think the Liberty Bowl is usually December 30th or December 31st. I don't. It's not a. I don't believe it's a January bowl game. Of course, not that January bowl games matter anymore. 2025 Liberty Bowl is. Oh, it is interesting. Usually that's not a January bowl game, but the Liberty Bowl is January 2nd now. That's kind of wacky. Interesting. Huh. Well, hopefully we're not playing on January 2nd. It's a shame that the January bowl game doesn't mean anything anymore. It used to be like, going to a January bowl was a big thing. But doesn't matter anymore. Much like most of bowl season, unfortunately. Anyways, but if you end up 6-6, you might end up down there down in some other bowl game where I don't know what the bowl packing order is this year anymore, but you can get below, you can thread underneath the Liberty Bowl if you finish 6-6, or you can get above the Liberty Bowl if you finish 8-4. And that's really what we're shooting for here, is win the last couple here, so that way we can at least end up give me the Rate Bowl in Phoenix against Cal. Or not Cal, or not, give me the Rate Bowl in Phoenix against Nebraska. I think that'd be fun. I might even go to that one. If it's in Memphis versus Memphis, there is pretty much a 0% chance I'm going to that game. there's just no way I couldn't be less interested in going to Memphis to play Memphis again. But I think when you approach Kansas this time around, last week we saw it. Last year we saw them really prey on that young defense. The misdirection really gave them a lot of issues, especially the linebackers, Ryland Barnes and them. They had a rough game. And a young Tashawn James had a rough game versus them as well. And it caused a lot of problems. And obviously that was one of the big things that led to that blowout in Kansas City last year. They're still running the same offense. They've still got Jalen Daniels. They don't have, Devin Neal and a bunch of those. And most of their skill players graduated. They've got a couple guys, but for the most part, they're not quite as high flying as they were last year on a yards per play basis. Actually, I'll show you. I'll kind of show you here, kind of where they stand right now. So when you're looking at these two teams together, let me center that up a little bit better. So, on a yards per play on offense, Kansas's offense is, about a points per play is better because they've been better at finishing drives out. But on a yards per play, basis, they're really not that much better than Iowa State, despite having the offense been taking a month off basically. The running game is okay. It's not great, but Iowa State's running defense has been very good. Excuse me, as of recent. Their defense is, again, it's okay. It's basically on pars, but Kansas doesn't have anywhere in the same neighborhood of injuries as Iowa State does. They're analytically, they're very similar to Iowa State. Team Rankings actually has Iowa State as a two-star confidence pick to win this game, which is more than usual in a conference game. Usually they're at 1-star. For what it's worth, but they also had a 2-star prediction to get for Iowa State at Colorado and stuff like that too. But statistically they're in the same neighborhood. I want to go down here. I don't know. I'm going through all the years here. If we look through here, they've got a couple good receivers here. The Emmanuel Henderson's leading the team there, 41 catches, 638 yards. Cam Pickett's right behind him, and then Bowden Groen as their tight end. After that, it drops off quite a bit where you're talking about maybe 1 or 2 catches a game. There's a blast from the past there for Iowa State fans. Deshaun Hanukkah hanging out in there. But they spread the ball around to a few people, but they're not a massively prolific offense necessarily. Just in terms of throwing the ball. Their running game is sitting heavily. I mean, Jalen Daniels is leading the teams in rushing. It's a lot of read options. And then it's Daniel Highshaw and LaShawn Williams, doing their thing. LaShawn Williams, did he go? He went to Iowa. Okay, I thought he was an Iowa transfer. Yeah, LaShawn Williams, the Iowa transfer. Yeah, so they, it's heavy QB run as it pretty much always is with Jalen Daniels, who is in his 47th season at Kansas. And this is going to be one where you're going to really want to rely on your veteran linebackers to properly gauge that read option and keep Jalen Daniels Jalen Daniels run game contained. The big thing in this game, though, I really do think here, though, is one of the really good developments we saw from the TCU game was we saw the defensive line play maybe their best game in the last few years. We saw them get real pressure on TCU in the form. Dominic Orange obviously was doing his thing. Then you've got Akinyi Ziogu had a decent little game. Jace Gilbert had a nice game. They were able to get some pressure from the defensive line, which is a big deal. Last year, if you remember, in Kansas City, the defensive line did nothing because Dominic Orange and J.R. Singleton were both hurt. So like Zamir Hawk, redshirt freshman Zamir Hawk was starting, and they had nothing on the defensive line basically, and they got no pressure on Jalen Daniels all night. And Jalen Daniels basically just sat in the pocket and just shredded the defense up and down the field. You had veteran wide receivers that were very good at finding their option routes and sitting in the holes in the zone, and a quarterback that had all day to wait for them to do that. And that's obviously a recipe for disaster against most quarterbacks, but especially in this offense when you've got, it's reliant on them having smart playmakers that are good at finding spots in the zone because their offense runs tons and tons of option routes. And, being able to take this bye week and really sit down with Drew Surgis and Marcus Neal and Josh Patterson, Quentin Taylor, and Trey Bell, getting to sit down with these young defensive backs for an entire bye week and being able to study this Kansas offense and how they approach things and all their misdirection, what their different reads are, is a really critical thing. Last year, you were going on it wasn't a short week, but you were going in on a normal game week with a really, really young defense, pretty much all the way from, defensive line back. And now you get, your linebackers and your defensive line are more experienced. Obviously your secondary is young, but they can in general kind of sit back and play drop coverage. If they really are not sure about some things, they can always just sit back and play drop coverage. That's a thing. It's a nice safety blanket that they always have there, and they shouldn't have, and then they aren't going to have to cover up for the linebackers in theory. Caleb Bacon is supposed to be back per Matt Campbell. Obviously Cooper Ebel's been a stud this year. He'll be at least a second team all Big 12 linebacker. I'd hope he'd be a first team. I mean, Jacob Rodriguez from Texas Tech has been amazing, but I mean, to me, the Big 12 first team linebacker is Jacob Rodriguez, Cooper Ebel, and then the kid from Kansas State whose name is completely escaping me at the moment. But I think Cooper Ebel's been one of the best defensive players in the league, not named Jacob Rodriguez this year. He's been really, really excellent, and I trust him and Bacon to be smart and be able to handle those guys. I'm trying to find that the Kansas State linebacker whose name is just completely Austin Romaine. That's what I was thinking of. It was Austin Romaine. Those guys need to be smart in the middle of that defense and not bite too much on those read options, because really they're best off to prioritize containing Daniels' run off the read option and letting them run with the running back a little bit, letting Dom Orange stuff up the middle. They're better off just containing Jalen Daniels and making them run vertically, through the A gap. Basically, they're probably better off doing that. But I do think that the development in the pass rush last week versus TCU is notable. We'll see if they can keep it up. I've been harping on him all year, but Akinyi Ziogu has an NFL body. I mean, he should be, if he had a high motor and a couple more moves in his bag, that kid's a day 2 pick or better as a defensive lineman in the NFL draft in 2026 or 2027, I should say. But he's got to take that step forward. But the athleticism, the size, and the athleticism are all there to be an elite really, like a really, really high end pass rusher. If he can just put it all together and get that switch to flip on, he's got all the talent in the world to be there. So combine him, Dom Orange, see if you can get some more out of. Yeah, if Thomas McDonough is healthy enough to do something, that'd be great. It's a bummer that he only got one season with us and he was hurt for half of it. But uh, Jace Gilbert had a little bit there. Maybe Vontroy Malone can get something going. I'm not sure, but if they can get a little bit of pressure on Jalen Daniels and not let him get so comfortable and make him run around a little bit, and then you can put a spy on him. I think that would be an excellent way to try to deal with that running game. Because if Jalen Daniels doesn't have a lot of time to throw and you take away his running game, he's gonna turn the ball over. He's gonna give you the ball. Over the course of his career, he has been a turnover machine. As of the last couple of years, they've calmed down a little bit, but generally speaking, in his career, Jalen Daniels is a turnover machine. So if they can get him sped up, get him, and get him, get pressure on him and not allow him just sit back all day like he did last year in Kansas City, I think that's a big step forward, because I just don't see, flipping to the other side of the ball here. Kansas's defense is not very good. Especially their rushing defense is really bad. It's quite poor. I'd have to see if I can find some good like expected yards per carry and stuff like that on that. But Kansas's rush defense especially is very bad, which is a good matchup for Iowa State, because Iowa State has, for all the struggles of the offense has had the last month and a half, one thing that they've been able to consistently do well is they have been able to run the football. And they're not doing it like 8 yards a carry. They're not doing like some bullshit, like some like Art Briles era Baylor 9 yards a carry, / late Bob Stoops, 8 yards a carry bullshit like those offenses did. But they're getting, 4 to 5 yards a carry, and they're just consistent. They're not eating, negative plays. They're getting a few. They're getting 2, they're getting 4, they're getting 6, then they'll bust one off for 10 or 12. And then, maybe get one for 20, for 2, 3, 4, whatever it is. And they're able to keep the chains moving. They're able to keep the offense moving down the field at least a little bit with the running game. Carson Hansen's been good since he came off of his concussion. We'll see. Hopefully Abu Sam is healthy. He's been kind of like on and off the injury report the last few games. Hopefully he's healthy and ready to go. If he's not like 100% ready to go, maybe you see some Dylan Lee. Because I think they're going to be able to get some room in the running game. We'll see what, supposedly James Neal's been playing really, really hurt the last few weeks. I don't know. I mean, maybe if he's healthy, then that offensive line gets better. Everybody except James Neal has had a really, really good football season. James Neal has been very, very up and down at that left tackle spot. But if he's been hurt, I don't know what you do with that exactly. But you should be able to run the ball against Kansas. I mean, really, you through the nice A and B gaps like Iowa State likes to run, I think you can really take advantage of that. Some of that stuff. Will you see a lot of like read options with Rocco? I don't know. I think they're still trying to kind of protect him a little bit. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad idea. You let him, you give him the green light to scramble when it makes sense, but I don't know that you're running lots of design runs for him at this point. If they're going to do a read option, they're probably going to bring in Mansky or Moberly, I would imagine. But Kansas's pass defense is solid. It's again, it's not like world beating, but it's solid enough. And it's not a secondary that Iowa State can't throw the ball on at its best. Now the tricky part here is you did lose Gabe Burkle for the season against TCU, as we kind of suspected last week. Matt Campbell confirmed it this week. He's got to be having surgery tomorrow, I think is what it is. We'll see. I don't know what the injury is exactly. Hopefully he's ready to go by the beginning of next year. We'll see. But yeah, Fred's got this exactly right. In the passing game, if the receivers catch the damn ball, that's going to solve a lot of problems. Now, Rocco has missed some throws, yes, but there's been plenty of throws that have been on target that have not been caught. So they need to catch the damn ball. If they catch the damn ball, the offense should be able to keep it moving with the running game. They can sprinkle in some of the pass here and there just to pick up some, if you have to pick up a long first down conversion or whatever it is to keep the defense off balance. they're probably going to have to sell out a little bit to stop Iowa State's running game. Um, I want to see. I This is a game I want to see. I really think the RPO stuff. I think you can get back to that in this game here a little bit because especially if you can establish an early running game, those RPOs will be open because if you can establish that running game early, their defense is going to have to come up. They're going to have to bring some safeties up. They're going to have to help more in that. They're going to have to commit more eyes to the backfield in the running game. So, and Rocco's one of the better, one of the best play action / RPO guys in college football, really, as far as selling that fake goes. So, if you can get them to bite on one of those, that backside post that always seems to go someplace for Iowa State, you know, the backside alert off of that RPO, it can be there. Whether it's Chase Soul, Brett Askelson, Xavier Townsend, Eli Green, whatever it is, I think that will be there at some point. You know, it wouldn't shock me a lot to see them take another early shot. We did not see the early deep shot against TCU, but it would not shock me at all to see it against Kansas. I think they probably think that they can attack Kansas in a few different places. And, they love to take that shot at home, especially. They love to get after early. So, I mean, this is a winnable football game for Iowa State. Kansas' defense is not particularly scary. The offense is scary from a schematic standpoint just because it's a bad matchup for our defense. But they don't have the super, like, mega veteran skill players at all the positions like they did last season to be able to do that. Their offensive line isn't quite as good as it was. Jalen Daniels is fine, not great. Jalen Daniels just never took the step forward to being like this fringe Heisman contender like a lot of people thought he was going to be able to be. He's been fine. There's been flashes of brilliance, but just never been all that great. And we took a couple shots versus TC, not like the first or second play of the game shot that we tend to see sometimes at home. But you're right. They did take a couple deeper shots against TCU, and they were dropped, and and the pick that I talked about last week, the pick that off to the left side, it was on the left side of the field to Brett Askelson. He threw it. It was a corner route that was underthrown, but it was catchable or at least defendable from Brett Eskelson, and he just didn't try. It's that kind of thing. Like, the wide receivers got to help. They have to help Rocco out a little bit. It's getting open. It's catching the damn football. And if we get to the point where the wide receivers are catching everything that they can catch, and then Rocco's just still missing throws, we can have a different conversation. But until they get back to catching some of these wide open passes or these really easy balls, that's just what it's going to be right now. And like I said, this game doesn't have to. You don't have to overthink this one, especially on offense. Run the ball and take care of and take advantage of play action RPO opportunities where you can get those safeties to pull up. Defensively, don't give up the big play. In this game, I think you're okay with sitting back just a little bit. Give them the 3 to 5 yard completion, and tackle right away type of thing. Rely on your tackling to get them down. Making Kansas march down the football field is generally not a great strategy for them. They're not super comfortable doing that. They typically prefer to hit more explosive plays and try to get down the field quicker. So if you can take away the explosive plays for Kansas and make them nickel and dime you down the field, at some point they're probably going to give you the football. Yeah, bend don't break is exactly right from Fred. I mean, that's how the defense that's what they're always trying to do. But in this game, I think you can really you can sell out to stop the deep ball, basically. Like, if you have to give up, if you're going to stick an extra safety back there just to make sure that you don't get burned deep, in favor, and maybe you give up an extra, an extra couple yards on a short completion or something like that, and just make them do that all day. Jalen Daniels will miss the throw at some point. He might throw it to a defender. He might fumble it. He's kind of chaotic when he has to run around and make plays on the run. And this is a game where you don't play to not lose. Like you don't play prevent defense all game. You still want to get pressure on Daniels and all that, but you don't need to overthink this. I would say it doesn't need to get incredibly aggressive to beat Kansas. You can just play your game. You can play ball control football. You can run the ball, hit some play action stuff. Just keep the passing game moving. It doesn't have to be explosive. It's better if it is, but your passing game doesn't have to be explosive to beat Kansas. Just go out there, take care of business. Don't turn the football over. Don't get beat deep, and you can win this football game. You can win this football game on the leg of Tyler Perkins just flipping the football field once in a while. I know I know that's kind of heresy in our fan base and in our conference. But this game absolutely can be won with field position. I did see a comment there about Florida getting another one. I don't know that he'll get another one as far as another like touchdown, but I would love to see them continue to be aggressive on this stuff. Like if you've got a shot to get some yardage on punt and kick returns, take it, do something with it, see what you can do. That's exactly right. Right now, for the rest of this season, we are trying to win. We're trying to win football games the Kirk Ferentz way. Defense, try to turn some ball overs, turn some guys over if you can. But otherwise, let your special teams and your running game win you that football game. You're trying to win this game with like 2014 Kirk Ferentz Iowa football. Basically, it's just defense, running game, special teams. That's how you're trying to win these football games right now, and that's a perfectly fine way to do it. But that's just what you got to do. You're still by doing that, you're inherently, inherently shrinking the margins a little bit as far as what you can afford to do and still win the game. But like I said, Kansas doesn't do anything incredibly well. They're just kind of doing stuff. They're kind of like those old Cliff Kingsbury Texas Tech teams that like they don't really do anything incredibly well, but once in a while they can hit you with some explosive stuff that kind of makes you nervous and puts you on your toes a little bit, and you might win them a game or two. But they just don't blow you away with a lot of other stuff. It's kind of like that. That's kind of how I would compare them, to those, like the 6-6 Kingsbury Texas Tech teams that are just fine. That's what Texas Tech is. They're fine. They've got a good quarterback. They've got like a couple okay running backs and like a good receiver and a good tight end, but that's nothing that I would say can't manage there. All righty. I probably will not. I'm not going to do a prediction this weekend because I didn't give one for the TCU game and we won that one. So as long as we keep winning, I am not doing predictions. We did get an injury update. As I mentioned before, Gabe Burkle's out for the season. Jameson Patton, he said, is questionable at best right now. Caleb Bacon should be back. But we'll see. I mean, there weren't any new injuries that popped up this week that we weren't expecting to hear about, I guess, which is good, I guess. But we'll get the official, definitive injury report tomorrow night. And usually if anybody tunes in to the nightcap over on our Wide Right Natty Light YouTube channel, the nightcap usually starts about 8 o'clock Central. And we usually go for about an hour. And then right at the end of the show, we read through the injury report and all cry as we see how long the damn thing is. And then we go to the other team's injury reports and cuss at them because they have 2 guys on their entire injury report. So that's kind of the situation right now. Obviously, I don't think there's anybody that's like coming back off an injury necessarily. I mean, we'll find out. Maybe I don't know if Benny Nagoya is ready to go, or if he's out for the season, or if they're just shutting him down, if they're shutting Jameson Patton down. We don't know for sure, but that's kind of where we're at right now. It's just kind of surviving with what you got, and hopefully the young guys can step up. Like I said, the Josh Pattersons, the Carson Van Dinters, the Quentin Taylors, the David Coffees of the world. Those are the guys you want. Caleb Brzezina coming in at linebacker with that third linebacker spot, if it's, whether it's Caleb Brzezina or John Klosterman or whatever it is, since Carson Willich, I think, is out. I believe so. With him being out, or at least in and out, those guys stepping up and improving a little more. Caleb Brzezina was a little bit rough earlier in the season, but think the last couple games he's been okay. But, I think so last week, Fred, last week we pulled up the Utah injury report and they had 0 names on their injury report. Now, whether that's just some bullshit from Kyle Whittingham, I don't know for sure, but they had nobody on their injury report, which is that sucks. But yeah, so that's kind of the situation right now. I was going to touch a little bit on basketball, but if anybody in the chat has any questions they would like answered for football, football or basketball, I suppose. If anyone's got any questions, throw them in the chat. Obviously, I'm more than happy to bring them up on screen and talk about them for a little bit. If anybody's got specific questions they want answered or any interesting topics you want me to cover yet today. But I figured I'd touch a little bit on basketball here. Basketball is obviously now 4-0. They blew out Stonehill College the other night. Looks decent doing it. And but they're blowing out the bad teams. They blew out Mississippi State, and which I don't think Mississippi State's a bad team. Most people don't think they are, but they've struggled a little bit. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But overall, they've played fairly well so far. The offense has been obviously against bad competition, so it's hard to know exactly. But generally speaking, I think the offense is actually is moving around fairly well. Taman Lipsey has been a good scorer so far. Momchilovich has been able to shoot fairly well so far. He didn't do much against Mississippi State, but Josh Jefferson has had a very good start to the season as well. We'll see what's happening there. Let's see. First question here I saw from Fred. What's a good record in Vegas? So they're going to be playing 3 games. The first 2 are against St. John's and Creighton. I'm trying to see who else is available for them to be played at some point. I was trying to see if I could find a bracket. But St. John's, I'm going to pull them up actually. Let's just pull up we'll pull up Ken Palm here. So currently St. John's is sitting as a top 20 team in Ken Palm. That's a good team. Obviously it's predicted as a 62% winner right now by Ken Palm, 4-point game. That'll be an interesting game. I do think Iowa State can win that one. Creighton is okay this year. They're not at top of the Big East like they usually are. I think you can win both of those. If Iowa State can go 2-1, depending on who they win, who they play in that third game. I think 2-1 is a perfectly acceptable record in Vegas. I'd be pretty disappointed if they went 1-2 or worse. 2-1, I think, seems certainly doable. Depending on who they play in that third game, Iowa State right now, you can see that number right there. I would say it's currently number 7 on Ken Palm. There's not a lot of teams in this field. Let me see if I can find. Is there anybody actually ahead of them in the field? So you've got UConn, Illinois, Purdue, Houston, Duke, and Gonzaga. So Gonzaga is the Ken Palm number 1, and Gonzaga is in the field. But otherwise, Iowa State is, I believe, ranked higher than every other team in the field right now. So 3-0 is on the table. Gonzaga is really good. If you end up playing Gonzaga in that third game, see what happens. But I guess Houston's in there, but we'll see I don't know if they'll play Houston or not, but depending on who you get in that third game, I think 2-1 is a very reasonable goal in Vegas. I think that's a good number to shoot at, is 2 wins in Vegas. If they're 1-2 with a loss to St. John's and the third team, and they beat Creighton and they look okay doing it, I'm not worried about that. As I said, St. John's is currently a top 20 team on Ken Palm. Who did they lose to? They lost to Alabama, and Alabama's a solid team. They gave up a ton of points in that game. But the Johnnies can score, and they like to move the ball up and down the floor. They're at ninth in tempo. They can shoot it a little bit. They don't turn the ball over a lot, which is really good. Um, you know, it's just kind of a they don't shoot the 3 point. They don't shoot the 3 point ball a ton. They're not great at it. Apparently, they're down here in the 200s, down under the 32%. But they're clean around the rim. They can rebound fairly well. I think it's an interesting game. It's certainly a game Iowa State can win especially if they can slow St. John's down a little bit on offense and turn them over a little bit. Obviously, when Iowa State can turn people over, they forced 26 against Mississippi State. I don't think you need to win. I don't think you need to force 26 turnovers to win this game. But obviously, if you can get 20 turnovers against St. John's, you're feeling pretty good right now. You look at how Iowa State matches up defensively. They're turning people over at a crazy rate right now. They're doing an okay job rebounding. Which is usually like kind of their one weak spot on defense is giving up some offensive rebounds, but generally speaking, they're doing a really good job at that too. The offense has been solid. We kind of suck at free throws, but it kind of is what it is, I guess. But they've been shooting the 3 ball better than they usually do. They've had some, Taman Lipsey, I think, has been a really nice offensive, been a good scoring threat so far. Not just a very good passer, which Lipsey and Josh Jefferson are both very good passers, but I think I've been pleasantly surprised with how good of a scorer Lipsey has proved himself to be so far earlier this season. Not that he couldn't do it, but just more like he's always been the pass first kind of guy where, if he can get 10, if you can get 10-6 and like 10-6-4 and a few steals out of him, that's like a very Taman Lipsey game. But right now he's in the neighborhood of, I guess I'll have to see what does his scoring look like right now. I guess KenPom doesn't really show that kind of stuff right now, but he's right now Taman's looking at, I should have a game log of here. Yeah. So he's averaging most of 20 points a game and or by like 15 points a game. So he's showing himself to be a good scorer there, and if Josh Jefferson keeps doing a nice job, he'll be right there. If I remember correctly, actually, at one point, or maybe not anymore, but at one point there was I saw a top 10 player of the year ranking for from KenPom's player of the year KenPom's player of the year stat, and Taman and Josh Jefferson were both in the top 10. I don't know if that's still the same. Yeah, there it is. So right there, 2026 KenPom player of the year standings, Taman Lipsey and Josh Jefferson, both right there. Pretty good. I'd say that's pretty good. And I believe right now they're the only team with 2 players on that list, so that's pretty good. This is going to be a difficult team to contend with. They put up 96 points against an SEC team, and we'll see how good they end up being. But I think this right now they just look really, really good right now. We'll see, but I like 2-1 in that Vegas tournament. Before you come back, you get a freebie against Alcorn State, and then you go on the road to Purdue. And right now, Purdue looks okay. I think they're a good team. Like, it'll probably be a top 3 seed in the tournament, but Purdue doesn't scare me a ton. And Oscar Clough, the transfer that we thought we were going to be able to get, but we ended up going to Purdue, has been a little disappointing. I don't think anybody is like blown away with Oscar Clough. And they've got Braden Smith's a nice player, but you got a really nice chance right now to go to put together a pretty gaudy record here, frankly. And if you can go 3-0 in Vegas, you're looking at Iowa State being in the top 5 probably. We're in a good spot. Dukester says, "What did I miss?" Kansas is okay. Run the ball. Don't turn it over. Don't give the D play, and you're good. We're still fucked on injuries, and Iowa State has a good basketball team. That's pretty much where we're at. So, I don't know if anybody's got any other questions right now. We'll probably wrap her up here pretty quick. As a reminder, tomorrow night we've got the nightcap at 8 p.m. Central Time on the Wide Right Natty Light YouTube page. Pretty soon, we are going to also be having, right in I guess in general for Wide Right Natty Light. I know this is I'm on the Voice College Football channel right now, but just a quick like kind of aside for the Wide Right stuff is we're going to be adding more and more video podcasts. We've got all of our audio only podcasts right now, but pretty soon we are currently in the process of being able to get all of them in video form also on YouTube. Lincoln Cyclones, what are your tailgate plans? So this Saturday, this is kind of an unusual one. So about half of our group is going to be about half of our tailgate is going to be gone. They're at a Thanksgiving. They have a family Thanksgiving in Florida that they go to. So we're missing like half of our tailgate on Saturday. So we're actually going to be in Ames at least for a little while. We'll be starting anyways at a townhouse in Ames basically to start off with. Drink of choice. This time of year, I'm a big caramel vodka and apple cider kind of guy. Big fan of that. Dude, who's all out this injured this Saturday? Fucking everybody, man. I know the Jameson Patton is apparently questionable at best. Bacon should be back. Gabe Burkle's out for the season. And otherwise, I think it's the usual smattering of questionables and outs. Players of the game. Okay, I'll give you these. So my players to watch. Offensively, I think again I don't like picking the quarterback all the time because it's kind of a cop out. But I really do think you have to keep an eye on Rocco to see how he plays. Maybe the receiver room too, but it's the receiver room and it's Rocco just to see what how that thing is evolving right now. Defensively, I think Cooper Ebel has to be the game wrecker here. He's been really good all season, and he's going to be one of the guys in charge of dealing with Jalen Daniels' legs in the running game. So I'll take Cooper Ebel to deal with that. Special teams, it's got to be Flora, who has big hogs. Oh man, I'm a sucker for some White Russians. Obviously, if anybody that's ever followed us on Twitter is probably aware I'm a sucker for some White Russians. Big hogs. Flora's got the big hogs. So the funny thing about that whole bit is it was initially just a satire article that Matt Campbell wasn't going to be like honest on these reports or whatever, which he was going to be because he kind of has to be, but it was a satire article saying like, oh, they're just going to tell it, say everybody's questionable, which is that kind of the dumb gamesmanship thing. But then I left out, everybody's questionable. And then I just had separated out Rocco as has a big hog or whatever. And it just kind of turned into after every game, we just add kind of like our quote, it was kind of our unofficial, like Wide Right Players of the Week article. Basically, is like if they had a really good game, they get thrown on the big hog list. However, at a certain point, when you start losing a bunch of games, like you don't want to have to like take people off the big hog list. But at a certain point, you have so many injuries on the team that like satire doesn't actually like it, that the amount of injuries on the team and the number of people on the injury report is no longer satire, just is how things are. So like I haven't done one for a while because the injury report right now is itself a piece of satire with how many injuries there are. Fred's how many resources. So the original one, the original what became colloquially known as the hog report, the big hog report. The very first one got picked up by the Yahoo News aggregator, and we got a little bit of a slap on the wrist for that one. Well, I got a slap on the wrist for that one, saying like, "Oh, then we got to relabel it as satire and all this," and like then they threatened to not let them. So, peek behind the curtain. SB Nation basically like said we're going to be reevaluating if your guys are going to be allowed to do satire anymore, which shove it up your ass. But that's what I more politely and professionally told them is to shove it up their ass if they want to stop me from doing satire. Do I think it'll be a balance between Simon and Hansen? My guess is we'll probably see another heavy Hansen week this weekend. Um, we saw, I mean, Hansen got 28 carries last weekend to Sama's 7. I think that's partially because Sama was banged up a little bit, but I would expect to see more of that. Hansen's been really good, and it's kind of just a lean on the hot hand situation at this point, I think. So I would expect to see maybe, I don't know if quite the carry disparity, assuming that Abu Sama is healthy. If he's not healthy, then he's not going to get carries. But if he's healthy, if he's as healthy as he can get, then maybe you say like it's like a 21 21 13 2 kind of split, for the running backs. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to look, but it's been heavy Hansen the last few weeks. Kansas's run is bad. Kansas run defense is bad. Can see more Sama for the home run. Yeah, I mean that's for. I totally agree there. Like if they think if again if Abu Sama is fully healthy and ready to go, and they think they can find a spot in Kansas defense where they can hit an explosive run, then Sama will get some more carries, and especially if he can continue to keep getting carries, and they like to ride the hot hand at running back. So if Sama's continuing to get consistent yardage, they'll lean on Sama for that. So, all righty. Well, I think we will probably wrap her up for this week, but I appreciate everybody tuning in. I really appreciate all the comments and all the chat there. That makes these go by a lot faster. Hopefully in the hopefully at some point in the future, I will be able to get a co-host. The co-host I originally had picked out and kind of slated to join back in the spring, just never found the time to do it. So I might ask him one more time and see if he can do it. If not, then I might look elsewhere, see if I can find another co-host for this. But the chat and all the questions make it a lot easier to do this solo. Any senior you're sad to see go? I mean, it's senior day, so it's always an emotional one. I mean, Jim Boniface has really kind of come to his own this year. I mean, it's disappointing that we couldn't see him play at his peak for more than this season, basically. There's a few other guys. For the most part, I would say it's pretty young. Dom Orange is not a senior, but he'll be. My guess is he'll probably take his senior. He'll probably do a senior day. Probably do a senior day thing this week. How much does it pay? Not a fucking thing right now. If at some point this channel gets big enough where we can monetize and start making money, then the co-host will get we'll get a cut. But right now, not a damn thing. Kind of like most of the SB Nation stuff I do is not a damn thing. Not nearly enough anyways. But anyways, there's in general, is there a specific senior this year that I'll be sad to see go? I mean, like it'd be disappointing to see like Daniel Jackson have to graduate without ever really getting a chance to do anything. He just could never stay healthy. And it's a bummer because I really do think at some point he was going to be able to, I think he was going to be a good receiver, and it just didn't work out. There's too many injuries and all that. And there's sometimes just how life goes, unfortunately. It is what it is, though. I said Dom Orange, I assume will probably take a senior day walk because he's going to go to the NFL draft, and he should. At this point, Dom Orange would be stupid to come back to college. Because all he's doing right now, he's banged up right now, and if he comes back, he's not like his draft stock's not going to get higher, and he could just continue to get banged up. So as far as if Dom Orange is, there's no way Dom Orange is staying. He is 100% going to the NFL draft after this season. So I would assume Dom Orange will take a senior day walk for himself. Jim Boniface, I wish we could have seen at a higher peak. Tyler Miller's another one. I would really like to see Tyler Miller. He's really kind of come into his own. I think he'll be there. I think James Neal's a senior as well, if I remember correctly. So I'm not sad to see him go, but it's more just like I don't have the same emotional attachment to him as we used to for like Brock Purdy and Charlie Kohler and Breece Hall and those kind of guys. But it's unfortunate to see. Not unfortunate, but it's good because they're moving on to their adult lives and all that. But there isn't a lot of names in this senior. Oh, actually, the one I think that's an obvious one here is Caleb Bacon. Unfortunately got robbed of his season last year, but he is really came on. I really wish we could have seen another season or two of him at the peak of his powers. He's been a really nice linebacker to that. I think he's a redshirt senior. I don't think he can come back unless they can somehow get a medical redshirt for him, I guess. But Orange is not maxed out on eligibility. I believe Orange is a true junior. It's either a true junior or a redshirt junior. He's not a senior though. He's a junior. He could come back next year, but that would be nonsense. So I don't think so. I think he's a redshirt junior. Let me just check, but I'm pretty sure he could come back again if he wanted to. Let's see here. Let me just pull up the roster real quick. We are going to wrap up here in just a few minutes though, because I'm going to get recording down the pipe and Natty Light. So Dominic Orange I guess he is a true senior. Well, damn. So Dominic Orange is definitely gone. For some reason, I had it in my head. I thought he was a redshirt junior, but he's a true senior. So yeah, he's out. Yeah, he's out of eligibility anyway. So, so there you go. Yeah. So Dominic Orange, Caleb Bacon, I think are the two that I'm looking at. And I was like, man, I really wish we could have them for longer. But it is what it is. Next year's senior class is going to be a big one because you'll lose. I believe you'll lose Carson Hansen and Abu Sama and Rocco Becht. You'll lose Jameson Patton. I believe Jontez Williams. You're going to lose some big names after next season. So I think next season's got to be the year. If you're going to try to win a Big 12 title, and next season's got to be the year right now. Not that you're going to get necessarily going to be bad in 27, but it's more just like you're going to be turning over a lot of people in 27. And last time we saw this program turn over a lot of good seniors, didn't go so well the next season, but is what it is. So appreciate everybody for watching, for commenting, for chatting it up. Makes it a lot easier to do these shows by myself when I've got lots of people asking questions. So appreciate it. We'll see you guys all again next week. Hopefully recapping a Kansas win and previewing an Oklahoma State game next weekend. We will see what happens. So thanks everybody for watching, and see you next Tuesday.